What about auto mechanics, auto technician? If you're considering it, is it a good occupation? Is it worthwhile? Something you should probably do, that you might really want to do that's credible. Um, well, I'm going to give you the pros and the cons. I took some notes to try to make it a little more concise so I'm not rambling all over the place. All right, so maybe you want to be an auto mechanic or an auto technician, all right? Like I did when I was young. That's what I wanted to do. It's what I ended up doing as I got older, once I discovered automobiles. But automobiles were a lot cooler in my youth. It was in the 70s. Cars were cooler. My first car was a 1971 Dodge Charger with a 383 in it, and headers and an intake and a cam, 4-speed, posi rear, all that stuff. First car. So cars were different then. Badass bucket seats. It was a whole different thing. So what about today? Is it a good choice? And after having done it now for, I don't even want to add up how many years because it just makes me feel older, for well in excess of 30 years as a professional, has it been worthwhile? Would I have done it if I could foresee what the future held? I'm not sure. But let me run down the pros and cons that I feel exist in case you're interested. First on the pros is employment opportunities, pretty much always and forever. You're always going to have a skill. It's a skill like any other trade, and that's one thing about the trades, for the most part, is that if you have a trade, a genuine trade, and you've served your time as an apprentice or whatever, and you get to the point where you're a journeyman or a master or something, then pretty much you're employable basically anywhere in the world. As far as this field we're talking about right now, your cars or vehicles or trucks, everywhere in the world. So pretty much you can go anywhere you're going to get a job, no matter where you land. So that's one plus, especially in this day and age. There's so many jobs out there today. So that's one plus. Flat rate. All right, if you worked flat rate versus salary, a lot of guys are going to think they want to go salary. Salary's the way to go. Maybe if you get older and get slower, it might be a way to go. But for a really good technician, flat rate is the way to go if you're in the correct shop. And if you're not in the correct shop, then you go to find the right shop. Because there are more jobs, there are more positions out there than there are available technicians or qualified technicians or mechanics to fill them. I mean, like hugely. Lots more jobs out there than people to fill them. But as a flat rate guy, if you're good, you can work at your own pace pretty much. You don't have to kill yourself in a shop where everything is efficient, where you have really good upfront people in the office, you have a good service writer, good management. They've got their routine down with getting the parts together and getting the cars, the work sold after you've diagnosed it and written it up. If the turnaround's good and they have a high volume of vehicles, you can get into a groove where you're really not really doing yourself any harm. You're at a comfortable pace and make a lot of money. Now in the wrong shop, same exact guy, same skill set, same everything, except a different shop. In the wrong shop where they're completely, it's chaos, and you have unskilled people. There are people that are not as talented or knowledgeable that are up front running the show. Then same guy, he may have a hell of a time, trying to turn hours. You have a lot of problems. So my advice to that guy is get the hell out of there, because there are more jobs, like I said, than there are technicians to fill them. Escalating income every year. Because there's such a shortage of qualified technicians, money goes up every year. Pretty much you can almost get it once you get good. You can get top dollar everywhere you go. So that's one good, really. What's top dollar? I mean, it can be upwards to $40. Around in these parts, even if you're at the right place, this part of the country, $40 an hour. It could be on the low end for a top-notch guy. You're probably talking about 30 an hour. So between 30 and 40 an hour, depending on the shop. Now, And it depends on the area. There are some areas where the economy is depressed. If you're there, then you may have to make a little less. But if your overhead is less, your cost of living is less, then it all evens out, I guess. And then if you're willing to drive a little bit, you're still going to be able to make that dollar if that's what's important to you. So that's one good thing. It's just going to keep going up because there's such a huge shortage of technicians, like all trades. What else we got? Zoning. You can zone into your own headspace. You work. You're kind of working by yourself. Once you get your job or your jobs, however they're going to work it there for the day or whatever, then you're left to your own devices. You're just turned loose and you're on your own. So you're kind of like, even though you're working at a shop for someone else, you're still kind of like your own little businessman on your own, kind of like a contractor. And some people do work, as a contractor. But either way, you're still, you're working alone. Your success, although it depends on the people down the chain further, have to be competent at their jobs too. That can definitely do damage to your potential to earn money if they're not any good at what they do. But if you have all that in place and the shop has all that in place, the right place, then basically the rest of it's on you, and you're just left to your own devices pretty much. You're not going to have to really conform or comply or parent standards. You maybe have to wear a uniform or something like that. That's not unusual, for represent the shop you work for. But other than that, it's not going to be that strict at most places. And if it is, like I said, there's so many places. There's more jobs than people, so you can always go somewhere else and just be yourself and do your thing. As long as you don't bring a lot of drama, you mind your business, you just do your job. So in that regard, I think it's pretty good. And it's pretty comfortable. It's different every day. Huge variety, in type of work. One job to the next, you could be doing. You're working on cars and trucks or whatever have you that you work on, maybe motorcycles or maybe even boats, depending on where you're at and what you're doing. But from one to the next, there are all kind of different vehicles out there and all kind of different problems, and you're going to see some of the same problems, of course, and some of the similar, same vehicles or like vehicles might share common problems that crop up more often than not. But and then sometimes you'll get one in there's completely an oddball thing, off the wall thing you haven't seen in a long time, but a different kind of problem. But it's challenging at the same time. It's filled with variety. Really, it's a lot of variety, so that's nice. And you can afford in your personal life, even as a young guy, I was always able to afford vehicles, motorcycles and cars that I would otherwise never have been able to afford, because I can fix them. I know what they're worth when I actually look at them. You're not going to be taking, when you go look at cars, you do all your own repairs. You can take a car. I've known many guys over the years that are capable of just taking a car right out of a junkyard. And in a year's time, year and a half or whatever have you, car looks like you just rolled off the showroom floor. 2 years maybe, I've seen it. I've done it. So that's another really cool thing. Most of the time, if you're a guy that turns wrenches, you're a gearhead and you have something you like to do, whether it's trucks or cars or motorcycles. You can afford toys that for most people would be, a lot more expensive than it would be for you. So that's another good bonus. Now, the cons, maybe another good plus is if you are good and you're in high demand, pretty much you're not gonna be working any more than the 5-day work week, and you're not gonna be working yourself in the ground. You're just not. There's so many jobs out there that in this day and age you can just go for whatever you want. You'll be able to find it. So that's really good. Now the cons are you're dirty. You get dirty a lot. And when I first started out, a very good friend of mine who was an older guy, he said to me, "You don't want to be a mechanic." Back then we weren't called technicians, we're mechanics. He said, "You don't want to be a mechanic, man. Stay in school, do something else, right? Get a higher education and do something else." He said, "Your hands are dirty all the time. You go out to dinner with your wife, and then, maitre d' comes to get your order, and you're like folding your hands or keeping them in your lap because your nails are so dirty you can't even get all the dirt out of them because you worked that day. And it's embarrassing and all this stuff." So to me as a kid, that shit just went right over my head or bounced right off of me. I thought it was like a badge of, honor or whatever, rite of passage. I turn wrenches, I get dirty. It's part of it. It's no thing to me. if I have calluses on my hands and I have dirt under my nails that I don't always, can't always get it all out of my skin. But I found out that over the years, literally, you can get so much dirt, depending on what you're working on. You can get certain kinds of grease and dirt all over you that it will get so much into your pores that you can wash your hands, and no matter how clean they look, an hour later, it looks like dirt's coming back out of them again. You really have to get a scrub brush and scrub them. Same thing with your nails and everything. I scrub mine with scrub brushes today, and this is what I look like. So, of course, I have already been playing with my motorcycle today, so you can't really, it's not fair to actually say that. But they were cleaner than that when I got done, but they still were by no measure, like really, really clean looking. So that's one thing. And you're going to get dirty. End of the day, sometimes you're going to be filthy. And other times, you're not going to get so dirty. Exposure to questionable chemicals. Some of them aren't even questionable. Some of them are absolute carcinogens. And you're going to be exposed to all that kind of stuff. Brake clean, and asbestos, even though they say there's no asbestos, there's still a certain degree of asbestos in brake linings and stuff. And you're going to be exposed to all kind of crap that's bad for you, all kind of different automotive fluids and brake fluid, transmission fluid, and oil, and all this other shit. And it can't be great for you. It's always all over your skin. It can't be good. Just smelling all that brake clean, right? Sometimes requires great financial investment. It actually does. When you first start out, a lot of guys now, they don't want to. It's a different era, different people. And people today, a lot of these younger guys, they want to come out into a field and they want to make top dollar right off the bat, and you're not going to be able to do that. You're going to have to earn it. You're going to have to, apprentice, or more or less for a while. You're going to have to serve sort of an apprenticeship. You're going to have to earn that worth, be able to develop competency, and it takes years. So that's maybe a downside for a lot of people. You're not going to make immediately great money. But your future, you will. But you're not going to make great money initially. And at the beginning, even as you acquire more skills, you can't really demand the money to an extent until you have the tools. Until you have all your own tools. We have to have all our own tools. They go to the jobs with us when we change jobs. And, shop has some things, but a really good technician pretty much has everything he needs. He owns it himself. And these tools are very expensive. They're acquired pretty much over a lifetime or over a career, and you probably, basically, you never stop. You never purchased your last tool if you're still alive, I guess. But like I said, when you just jump out of the gate, everything is expensive. You're not really making very much money, and yet you still need to be able to invest something in tooling. So it's difficult at the beginning, especially today, because today you have all the diagnostic stuff from the computer, diagnostic components and things that you didn't have when I first started out. So as these things became more prevalent in the industry, right? Like more fuel injection, it became commonplace. It became commonplace to have electronic ignition, and it became commonplace to have more computer controls and all this stuff. I was able to, little by little, right? It got dished out to me, and I would learn the next thing as it came down the pike. So today it's thrown all at you right out of the gate, and it can be overwhelming because that's what you're stepping into. It's much more highly developed now and requires a lot more equipment. Start at the bottom. Physical labor. It's physical labor, and it's always going to be physical labor. And if you do everything that's there, it comes down the pike. It's physical. It's a physical job. There are some days you'll be less physical than others, but there will be some days that stand out as pretty physical, where you're just swinging on a heavy hammer, you're cutting stuff up with a torch. You're doing work. It's work. You're going to sweat. You're going to wear yourself out. Some you're going to tire yourself out. Not every single day, but it will be physical every day. It's physical. It's a physical thing. Social stigma. I don't know how much of that exists anymore or not today. A really good technician, it can make as much as anybody else and make more than most people coming out of college with a degree, And in fact, a really good technician today, you're up there, like I said, hourly, $30, $40, somewhere in there. So, do the math yourself. If you're really good, a flat rate guy, I've been in shops where I could turn, 64 to 74 hours in a 5-day work week. of good work without any comebacks. If you have comebacks and you're just butchering stuff up, you don't get paid twice. So very quickly that's going to reveal itself, and you're not going to be worthwhile, and they're going to let you go, because you're going to turn a lot of hours one week, but then right away the cars are going to come back. They're not going to work. There'll be complaints. They're going to lose business over it. And the next week you won't make anything because you're trying to fix all these cars that you already screwed up. So that really doesn't happen like people think it happens. If you're that kind of guy, people are going to know about it, and you're not going to make any money really. But other than that, you're going to be able to make some money. So I'm not really, good money. So I'm not really sure that social stigmata really exists like it used to. The stigma, the social stigma. And and everybody outside of your professional world, like at home and around your home life, everybody wants free repairs or free diagnostics, or can you look at my car? Sometimes you'll get that. But if you make it a habit that you're not a guy that really does that very often, then people just eventually won't really ask you about it too tough. But if you're out and about and anything's going on, somebody's car breaks or something, you're the guy people look to. So if you don't like that, if you're not really a social guy, you don't really like to help people, that could be a drawback. So I don't know. So that's about it. Overall, I would say you could do a hell of a lot worse than becoming a mechanic or auto technician. One of the other really big pluses is that all the skill set that you will acquire. Cars have HVAC systems, cars have plumbing, cars have, every other internal combustion engines, diesel engines. You're going to learn enough things that they have seals, they have, there's enough that a lot of it crosses over. I mean, I can do plumbing, I can do HVAC work, I can do, all kind of air conditioning stuff, at home or any other thing. The only difference is everything that I'm working with is larger at home, So a lot of crossover. Pretty much if you're a really good technician, you're pretty much going to be able to fix whatever else there is to do mechanically. You're a mechanic. You can pretty much, eventually you'll get to the point where you can fix whatever's out there, whatever it is. If it involves turning a wrench or figuring out something, or you're going to be able to do it. Electricity, wiring, you're going to at least be able to be decent at all of it. So that's kind of pretty good. I'm not saying you're going to be the greatest out there at every aspect of all those things, but there's enough crossover that you're going to be able to find your way through it all successfully. So that's pretty good, a good reliable thing and skill set to possess. So, take it from there. Like I said, huge investment of time and money, but it will set you up for the future. And it's recession proof to a large degree, not entirely, but to a large degree, because it depends. If you choose to work for a company like a dealer that produces cars that the average car costs very little, economy price stuff, then you're going to get economy priced wages basically, as compared to like an exotic car, like some kind of really high-end luxury product line. Those product lines that are almost recession proof, because those people that have that much money usually always have money to fix their car. And at the higher end, most of the cars you'll see at those dealerships, they're not going to be leaking fluids all over you, because most of those cars, it's all warranty, and people that buy those cars brand new, they don't keep them that long. Those initial owners, they really only keep the car for 60,000 miles, 50,000 miles, and they get another one usually most of them. So most of the stuff that you're going to see at a dealer, like an Audi dealer where I worked, one of the higher end dealers I've worked for, you won't see a car more than 3 years old or so. You might occasionally see one, but that'll be a rare fish. Most of the time you're going to be dealing with basically new cars. The downside of that is it's going to be mostly warranty, because those companies, you pay a good bit for the car when you buy it, and they fix everything that goes wrong with the car pretty much. The customer pay stuff's usually really good. So like I said, it depends. There's both ends of the spectrum. A lot of guys that are really good, they just lack the confidence to make a move because they've been somewhere so long and they're afraid to change. And sometimes they get mired at a place where they're really not making a lot of money, because there's not a lot of money there to be made, whereas they could go across the street or up the street another couple miles and make twice as much with the same skill set. Same guy. Anyway, that's pretty much covers the whole thing. You guys take care and good luck with whatever you choose to do in life, and have a great evening.